The snow fell heavy over Detroit that December night, silent, merciless, the kind of cold that cuts through steel and bone alike. 11:47 in the evening. The Mercedes S-Class, midnight black with custom leather interior worth more than most annual salaries, lost control on the bridge. No warning. No screaming tires. Just the sudden, sickening lurch as the brake pedal went to the floor. Nothing, no resistance, no salvation. The dashboard lit up like a Christmas tree gone mad. Brake failure. System error. 30 seconds until impact. Victoria Sterling, 32 years old, Chief Executive Officer of Sterling Aerospace Technologies, had exactly enough time to understand she was about to die. Her hands gripped the wheel, knuckles white. The car fishtailed across black ice, spinning like a child's toy in the hands of an angry god. The guardrail came up fast, too fast. Metal screamed against metal. Then the world tilted. And she was flying. No. Falling. The Mercedes punched through the guardrail and arced through the December air, headlights carving twin tunnels through the falling snow. For one perfect, terrible moment, Victoria hung suspended between earth and sky, between life and whatever came after. Then gravity remembered its job. The car hit the Detroit River nose first. The impact shattered the windshield into 1,000 diamonds of safety glass. Water, black and cold as the space between stars, exploded through the cabin. 2 degrees Celsius. Enough to stop a human heart in minutes. Victoria's head snapped forward against the deployed airbag, then back against the headrest. Stars burst behind her eyes. The world became a kaleidoscope of pain and confusion and rising water. Her left arm hung at the wrong angle, broken. The pain was distant, muffled by shock and the numbing cold already seeping into her bones. The water kept rising. Ankle deep. Knee deep. The electrical system sparked and died. The interior lights flickered once, twice, then surrendered to the dark. Only the pale glow of the moon through the snow provided any illumination. Victoria fumbled for the door handle. Her fingers, already clumsy with cold, found the release. She pulled. Nothing. The door wouldn't budge. Water pressure. Physics. The simple, cruel mathematics of a car filling with river water while sinking into the mud 20 feet below the surface. The water reached her chest. Victoria's breath came in short, sharp gasps. Hyperventilation. Panic. The kind of primal terror that strips away 32 years of education and accomplishment and leaves only the animal brain screaming for survival. She was going to die. Here. Tonight. 6 months after her father's death. 6 months after taking over a company she wasn't ready to lead. 6 months after discovering her father's closest friend, the man she'd called Uncle Ed her entire life, had probably murdered him for $87 million in stolen money. The water reached her chin. Then her mouth. Then her nose. Victoria took one last breath and held it. Her lungs burned. Her broken arm screamed. The cold was everywhere, inside her, part of her, claiming her cell by cell. 30 seconds before she would drown. 20. 10. Victoria's vision began to tunnel, dark creeping in from the edges, her body begging her to breathe, to open her mouth and take in water and end this horrible burning in her chest. 5 seconds. Through the shattered windshield, distorted by water and fading consciousness, she saw lights above the surface. Headlights. Someone had stopped on the bridge. But it was too late. Too far. Too impossible. Then the driver's side window exploded inward. Not shattered by a tool, destroyed by something harder. A fist wrapped in a jacket sleeve, driven with the precision of someone who knew exactly where to strike, exactly how much force to apply to safety glass already stressed by cold water and impact. Strong hands reached through the window frame, found her collar, her belt. Pulled. Victoria's body scraped through the window opening. Her broken arm caught on the frame, and she would have screamed if she'd had any air left. Then she was free, moving upward through the dark water, held by hands that felt like iron bands around her chest. They broke the surface. Victoria's body took over. She coughed, choked, vomited river water. Her lungs grabbed for air in great, tearing gasps that hurt worse than the broken arm. She was being towed, through the water, toward the shore. The snow still fell, soft and incongruous against the violence of what had just happened. The hands dragged her onto the muddy bank and laid her on her back. A face appeared above her, dark skin, strong features, eyes that held something she couldn't quite name, concern, determination, the absolute focus of someone in the middle of saving a life. The man's fingers found her carotid artery, checked her pulse with the practiced efficiency of medical training. 2 fingers, perfect placement, counting silently. Her breathing was shallow, irregular, shock setting in. He stripped off his jacket, soaking wet and probably worthless now, and draped it over her chest. Then he tilted her head back, checked her airway, and began rescue breathing. 2 breaths perfectly timed at 2.5 seconds each, watching her chest rise, making sure the air was going where it needed to go. Victoria's mind registered details through the haze of shock and cold. This wasn't amateur CPR learned from a poster in a gym. This was military-grade medical training. Precise, confident, the kind of skill that came from doing this 100 times in high-pressure situations. After 30 seconds of rescue breathing, her lungs started working properly again. The coughing fit that followed was violent and productive and beautiful because it meant she was alive. She rolled onto her side and retched, more river water, blood from where she'd bitten her tongue, the taste of copper and fear. The man stayed beside her, one hand on her shoulder, steadying, present. In the distance, sirens. Someone had called 911. Victoria tried to speak. Her voice came out as a croak. Who are you? The man looked toward the sound of approaching sirens, then back at her. In the moonlight, she could see he was maybe 35, fit, wearing work clothes, jeans, and a flannel shirt now soaked through. His hands were calloused, working hands. Nobody important. You're going to be okay. He stood up, started backing away. Wait, Victoria tried to sit up, failed. I need to know your name. Blue and red lights strobed across the bridge above them. The fire truck was close now. You need medical attention. They'll take care of you. Please, the word came out desperate, weak. I need to thank you. For just a moment, the man hesitated. Then he shook his head. No thanks needed. Anyone would have done the same. That was a lie, and they both knew it. The river was 2 degrees Celsius. Jumping in was choosing to risk your own life. Most people would have waited for professionals, for someone else, for anyone else. But he jumped without hesitation. The man turned and jogged toward the parking area where an old Ford pickup truck, 2008 model with rust spots and a dented fender, sat with its engine still running. He climbed in and drove away. Victoria watched the taillights disappear into the snow. The paramedics arrived 30 seconds later. They wrapped her in thermal blankets, started an IV, checked her vitals, and asked her questions she answered on autopilot. Name, age, any allergies, what happened? But her mind was somewhere else. On the man who'd pulled her from the river. On the military precision of his rescue breathing. On the way he disappeared without waiting for recognition or reward. On the fact that someone had just tried to kill her, and the brake lines hadn't failed by accident, and she'd been saved by a stranger who didn't want to be found. The ambulance doors closed, the siren wailed, Detroit passed by the windows in a blur of streetlights and snow. And Victoria Sterling, chief executive officer of a $2 billion company, realized her life had just changed forever. She just didn't know how much. Not yet. Flashback 6 months earlier. The scene dissolves. Color drains away, replaced by the warm sepia tones of memory. We are moving backward through time. 6 months before the river. Before the murder attempt. Before Darius Washington became the man who saved Victoria Sterling's life, without knowing he was saving his own future. Sterling Aerospace Technologies, Manhattan headquarters, 52nd floor, corner office with views that cost more per square foot than most Americans made in a year. Richard Sterling sat behind his desk, 61 years old, silver hair, the kind of face that inspired confidence in boardrooms and military procurement committees alike. $3 billion in government contracts, 12,000 employees, a legacy built over 4 decades. Across from him sat Edward Chambers, 58, chief financial officer for 20 years, the man Richard had trusted with everything. The man Richard had just discovered was a thief. Ed, Richard's voice was calm, too calm, the kind of calm that came before storms. I need you to explain these transactions. He slid a folder across the desk. Inside, months of forensic accounting work, fake contracts, shell companies, money disappearing like water through a sieve. $87 million. Chambers picked up the folder, flipped through it. His face showed nothing. Years of boardroom poker had taught him to control every micro-expression, every tell. Richard, these are legitimate vendor payments. To Prometheus Holdings, a company that doesn't exist. Of course it exists, Delaware Corporation. I can provide the incorporation papers. I've seen them, filed by a lawyer who specializes in shell companies for money laundering. Ed, I've known you for 20 years. You're like a brother to me. So I'm going to ask you once as a friend before I call the FBI. Where did the money go? Chambers set down the folder. For a moment the mask slipped. Behind the polished executive was something cold, calculating, dangerous. You're making a mistake, Richard. The only mistake I made was not catching this sooner. I built this company with you, 40-hour weeks while you played golf with generals. I did the work, the real work, keeping the lights on, making payroll, negotiating contracts while you collected awards and gave speeches about innovation. Richard's expression hardened. So you felt entitled to steal $87 million. Entitled, Chambers laughed, sharp, bitter. I earned every penny. You have no idea what I've done to keep this company afloat, the deals I've made, the compromises, the crimes. The word you're looking for is crimes. Chambers stood, buttoned his suit jacket. The gesture was unhurried, almost casual. You're going to call the FBI. First thing Monday morning. I'm giving you the weekend to think about what you want to tell them, to consider cooperating, to maybe salvage something from this. That's very generous of you, Richard. It's more than you deserve. Chambers walked to the door, stopped, turned back. You know, Richard, you always did think you were better than everyone else. Smarter, more moral, but you're just lucky. born into the right family, the right connections, the right life. Some of us had to fight for everything we got. We're done here, Ed. I'll see you Monday. Chambers nodded slowly. Yes, Monday. He left. Richard sat alone in his office as the sun set over Manhattan. The folder lay open on his desk. $87 million, 20 years of friendship, all of it ashes. He picked up his phone, dialed his daughter. Victoria, it's Dad. I need to talk to you about something important. Can you come by the office tomorrow? Across town, in a penthouse apartment that cost $60,000 a month, Edward Chambers made a different phone call. We have a problem, Richard knows. He's calling the FBI Monday. The voice on the other end was flat, professional, the voice of someone who solved problems for money. How do you want to handle it? Chambers looked out his window at the city lights, at the empire he'd helped build, at everything he'd worked for. His Cessna. He's flying to Boston tomorrow for a meeting. I need it to look like an accident. That can be arranged. It'll cost you. I'll pay whatever it takes. Consider it done. Chambers ended the call, poured himself 3 fingers of scotch, drank it in one swallow. 20 years of friendship. All of it about to end 30,000 feet over Ohio. 3 weeks later. The television flickered in a darkened living room in Detroit. The news anchor's voice was professionally somber. Tragedy struck the aerospace industry today as billionaire Richard Sterling, founder and CEO of Sterling Aerospace Technologies, was killed when his private plane crashed in rural Ohio. Sterling, 61, was flying alone to a business meeting in Boston when his Cessna experienced what investigators are calling catastrophic hydraulic failure. The plane went down in a wooded area. There were no survivors. Sterling is survived by his daughter, Victoria Sterling, who will assume control of the company. An investigation into the cause of the crash is ongoing, but early reports suggest mechanical failure. The television clicked off. In the darkness, a man held a 7-year-old girl in his lap. She was crying, not for Richard Sterling, whom she'd never met, but because her father was crying, and that was the most frightening thing in the world. Daddy, why are you sad? Darius Washington wiped his eyes, tried to smile, failed. I'm okay, Princess, just remembering someone. Someone who died. Someone who tried to do the right thing. Maya didn't understand. She was 7. Death was still an abstraction. A thing that happened to goldfish and characters in Disney movies, not to real people, not to mothers who died of cancer 3 years ago, not to billionaires whose planes fell from the sky. Can we watch something happy? Maya asked. Darius kissed the top of her head. Her hair smelled like the cheap shampoo they bought at the dollar store, like home. Yeah, baby, we can watch something happy. He turned on a cartoon. Maya settled against his chest, already forgetting to be scared. Children were good at that. Darius wasn't. He stared at the blank television screen, seeing Richard Sterling's face reflected there. A man he'd never met. A man whose daughter was about to inherit a war she didn't know she was fighting. Darius had left that world behind. The world of aerospace engineering and NASA and designs that flew into the black. He'd walked away from all of it 3 years ago when Sarah got sick, when the medical bills started coming, when the choice became clear, save your wife or save your career. He'd chosen Sarah. She'd died anyway. And now he was 35 years old, fixing cars at Martinez Auto Shop for $42,000 a year, living with his mother in a house that needed a new roof, raising a daughter who deserved so much better than this. But she was alive, and fed, and loved. That had to be enough. On the television, cartoon characters chased each other with mallets. Maya laughed. The sound was perfect and pure and everything good that still existed in the world. Darius held his daughter and watched the snow fall outside the window, and tried not to think about planes falling from the sky, or the corruption that could bring down empires, or the fact that somewhere in Manhattan, a woman he'd never met was about to discover that her father's death was no accident. The world kept turning. The snow kept falling. And Darius Washington, former MIT PhD and NASA engineer, went to bed in his childhood bedroom and dreamed of hydraulic failures and brake lines cut by expert hands. Present day. The morning after the river came cold and bright. Darius woke at 5:30 like always. No alarm needed. His body knew the rhythm, had known it since his days at MIT when he'd get up before dawn to run the Charles River before 8 hours of thermodynamics and fluid mechanics. That felt like a different lifetime. A different person. He made coffee in the kitchen, his mother's kitchen, the same kitchen where he'd eaten breakfast before school 25 years ago, the same cracked linoleum, the same ancient refrigerator that hummed like a dying bee. Gloria Washington, 72 years old and tougher than most men half her age, shuffled in wearing her bathrobe. "You get in late last night." "Yeah, sorry if I woke you." "You didn't, but I heard the truck. 11-something, you working double shifts again." Darius poured her coffee, fixed it the way she liked, 2 sugars, splash of milk. "No, just something happened on the way home." He told her about the Mercedes, the river, the woman, all of it. Gloria listened without interrupting. That was her way. Listen first, judge later, or not at all. "This woman," she said when he finished, "she see your face." "Yeah." "She get your name." "No." "Good, you don't need that kind of attention, baby. Rich people, they complicated. You got enough complicated in your life." "She could have died, Mama." "But she didn't, because of you. And that's good, that's real good. But you can't save everybody, Darius. You learned that the hard way already." They both knew she was talking about Sarah, about the cancer that ate her from the inside while Darius burned through their savings and his NASA salary and everything they had trying to stop it, about the medical bills that still arrived like clockwork 3 years after they'd buried her, about how some things can't be fixed no matter how smart you are or how hard you try. "I need to get Maya up for school," Darius said. He climbed the stairs to the bedroom he shared with his daughter. She slept in the twin bed, buried under 3 blankets because the heat didn't work great on the second floor. Darius slept on a mattress on the floor. He knelt beside her bed and touched her shoulder gently. "Maya, time to wake up, princess." She stirred, rubbed her eyes, smiled at him with a mouth full of baby teeth that were slowly giving way to adult ones. "Morning, Daddy." "Morning, baby girl. Big day today. You got that presentation, remember?" "About heroes." "That's right, you ready?" "I'm gonna talk about you." Darius felt his chest tighten. Every day, Maya found some new way to break his heart and put it back together again. "I'm not a hero, Maya, just your dad." Miss Johnson said heroes are people who help others even when it's hard. You help people every day. "I fix cars." "You fixed Mr. Martinez's heart when he had that attack. You knew exactly what to do. And you helped Mrs. Chen when her car broke down in the rain and she didn't have money to fix it. You fixed it for free." That's just being a decent person. That's what heroes do, Daddy. There was no arguing with 7-year-old logic. Darius helped Maya get ready for school, picked out clothes from the second-hand store that looked nice enough, made her breakfast, oatmeal with cinnamon and a little brown sugar, the cheap stuff but it tasted fine. He braided her hair while she ate. His mother had taught him when Maya was 2. After Sarah died and it became clear that Darius was going to have to learn all the things fathers usually delegated to mothers. Hair braiding, period talks that were still a few years away but coming, the particular way 7-year-old girls could break your heart by trusting you completely even when you felt like you had no idea what you were doing. Daddy. Yeah, princess. Do you think Mommy would be proud of me? Darius's hand stilled in her hair, then continued braiding, gentle, patient. Your mama is proud of you, every single day. How do you know she's in heaven? Because you're exactly the kind of person she hoped you'd be, smart and kind and brave. Yeah, she's proud. Maya nodded, satisfied. They finished breakfast. Darius loaded Maya into the truck and drove her to school. Greenfield Elementary. Old building. Underfunded. But the teachers cared and the kids were good, and it was walking distance from his mother's house when he couldn't pick her up. He walked Maya to the door, knelt down so they were eye level. You're going to do great on that presentation. I know. That's my girl, confident. Like Mommy. Like Mommy. He kissed her forehead, watched her run inside with her backpack bouncing, 7 years old, the entire world ahead of her if he could just hold on long enough, work hard enough, love her enough. Maybe it would be okay. Maybe. Darius drove to Martinez Auto Shop, the same route he'd driven for 3 years, past boarded-up houses and corner stores, and all the evidence of a city that had seen better days and was still waiting for them to come back. The shop was already open. Martinez was in early like always. You see the news last night? Some crazy crash on the bridge. Car went into the river. Darius hung up his jacket, started pulling on his work coveralls. Yeah, I saw it. Driver survived, they're saying. Miracle. Guess so. Martinez looked at him. The old man had been a mechanic for 40 years. He knew when someone wasn't telling the whole story. You okay, Mijo? I'm good, boss, just tired. You work too hard, too many double shifts. Bills don't pay themselves. Martinez shook his head but didn't push. He'd given Darius this job 3 years ago when every other shop in Detroit took one look at his resume and said no thanks. We don't need some overqualified NASA hotshot who's going to leave the second something better comes along. Martinez had said, I don't care where you worked before. Can you fix cars? Darius could fix anything with an engine. The first customer arrived at 8. A Porsche 911, cherry red, worth more than Darius made in a year. The driver was white, maybe 40, wearing a suit that cost what Darius paid in monthly rent. Hey, buddy. The man snapped his fingers at Darius like he was calling a dog. I need this done in an hour. Got a meeting at 9:30. There's 200 in it for you if you're fast. Darius looked at the work order. Oil change, tire rotation, brake inspection. It'll take 2 hours to do it right. I said 1 hour. Then you'll need to find someone else. I don't rush brake work. The man's face colored. He wasn't used to being told no, especially not by mechanics in coveralls with oil under their fingernails. Do you know who I am? No, sir. I'm Cameron Walsh, Walsh and Associates. We do your boss's taxes. That's between you and Mr. Martinez, but I still need 2 hours to do the job right. Cameron Walsh stared at Darius like he was trying to decide whether to escalate or back down. Pride versus prudence. Fine, 2 hours, but I want it perfect. Yes, sir. Darius pulled the Porsche into the bay and got to work. The car was beautiful, German engineering at its finest, but even perfection needed maintenance. He dropped the oil pan. Something caught his eye. The brake lines. They looked wrong. Darius rolled his creeper under the car for a closer look. His MIT training kicked in automatically, analyzing, calculating, seeing what most mechanics would miss. The brake lines showed signs of wear, but not normal wear. This was systematic degradation, the kind that happened when someone used the wrong fluid or pushed the system too hard, or when someone had tampered with it. Darius's mind flashed to the Mercedes last night, to the dashboard reading, brake failure, system error, to brake lines that hadn't failed by accident. He pushed the thought away and focused on the Porsche. The wear wasn't critical, not yet, but in another 500 miles, maybe 1,000, these brakes were going to fail. And Cameron Walsh, for all his arrogance and finger snapping, was going to lose control at 70 miles an hour on the highway. Darius rolled out from under the car, found Cameron Walsh in the waiting area, working on his laptop. Mr. Walsh, I need to show you something. It's been 20 minutes, you said 2 hours. Sir, your brake lines are wearing wrong. Not dangerous yet, but soon, real soon, I need to replace them. How much? Parts and labor, about 800. Walsh closed his laptop, stood up, walked over to the Porsche like he could diagnose the problem by looking at it. $800 for brake lines, that's ridiculous. That's the job, sir. I can show you the wear pattern if you want. I'll take it to the dealership. They'll do it cheaper. Darius doubted that, but he kept his mouth shut. That's your choice, sir, but I'd do it soon. These lines could fail without warning. Walsh pulled out his phone, started recording. So you're saying my car is unsafe to drive? I'm saying you need new brake lines in the next few weeks. But I can drive it today. Yes, sir, just carefully. Walsh stopped recording, smiled, the kind of smile that had nothing warm in it. You know what I think? I think you're trying to scam me, invent problems so you can charge more. Classic mechanic con. Darius felt something cold settle in his stomach. Sir, I'm telling you what I found. And I'm telling you to finish the oil change and rotation. That's what I'm paying for, not your made-up problems. Martinez appeared in the doorway. He'd heard the raised voices. Everything okay here? Your mechanic is trying to upsell me on unnecessary work. Martinez looked at Darius, questioning. Brake lines are worn wrong, boss. They're safe now, but not for long. Martinez walked over to the Porsche, knelt down, looked under the car himself. He'd been doing this for 40 years. He knew what bad brake lines looked like. These right, Mr. Walsh. These need replacing. Then why didn't my dealership mention it at my last service? Can't say, sir, but they need doing. Walsh grabbed his car keys from the hook. Forget it, I'll take my business elsewhere. Sir, we haven't finished the oil change. I said forget it. Walsh climbed into his Porsche and peeled out of the lot. The engine roared, expensive and angry. Martinez and Darius stood in the open bay door, watching him go. He's going to kill himself, Darius said quietly. Maybe, but you can't force people to accept help. He recorded me saying the car was unsafe. So, so if he crashes, that video ends up in a lawsuit. Martinez put his hand on Darius's shoulder. Mijo, you did the right thing. You told him the truth. What he does with it, that's on him, not you. You can't save everybody. The same thing his mother had said that morning. You can't save everybody. But Darius kept trying anyway. The day continued. More cars, more problems, some fixable, some not. By noon, Darius had diagnosed a bad transmission, replaced a timing belt, and convinced a grandmother that her Civic could last another 50,000 miles if she just changed the oil regular. He ate lunch in the break room, peanut butter sandwich, apple, water from the tap, same thing he ate every day because it was cheap and filling and predictable. His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Hello. Is this Darius Washington? The voice was female, educated, the kind of accent that came from good schools and better neighborhoods. Who's asking? My name is Victoria Sterling. I believe you pulled me from the Detroit River last night. Darius felt his lunch turn to lead in his stomach. I don't know what you're talking about. Mr. Washington, I had someone check the 911 calls from last night, find out who stopped on the bridge. Your truck was registered in police photos. Old Ford pickup, 2008, rust spots. Of course, he'd been stupid to think he could just walk away clean. What do you want? I want to meet you, to thank you properly. No thanks needed. Mr. Washington, you saved my life. Please, just coffee. 20 minutes of your time, that's all I'm asking. Darius closed his eyes. He could say no, should say no. Nothing good came from getting involved with people like Victoria Sterling. Rich people, complicated people, people who lived in a world he'd left behind. But she'd almost died. And he'd saved her. And that meant something, even if he didn't want it to. 20 minutes, he said. Thank you, there's a coffee shop on Woodward. Cafe Luna, do you know it? I'll find it. 4 o'clock. I have to pick up my daughter from school at 3. Then bring her, I'd like to meet her. That surprised him. Why? Because someone who raises a child while working full-time as a mechanic is someone I want to know. She hung up before he could ask how she knew he had a daughter, or that he was a mechanic, or anything else about him. Rich people had resources, private investigators, databases. He should have stayed in the river. Minute 12 to 15, the meeting. Cafe Luna was the kind of place that served $12 lattes to people who thought expensive coffee was the same as good coffee. Darius had driven past it 1,000 times, never went in. He walked in now with Maya's hand in his. Victoria Sterling sat at a corner table. Even in casual clothes, jeans, and a sweater, she looked expensive. The way she held herself, the perfect posture, the watch on her wrist that probably cost more than his truck. Her left arm was in a sling, broken from the crash. She stood when she saw them. Mr. Washington. Darius. Victoria, and this must be Maya. Maya looked up at the tall white woman with blonde hair and blue eyes, and designer everything. Hi, are you the lady Daddy saved? Victoria smiled. It looked unpracticed, like she didn't do it often. Yes, your father is very brave. I know he's my hero. Victoria's smile became something more genuine. Mine too. They sat. Darius ordered Maya hot chocolate. Victoria tried to pay, but Darius beat her to it. $5. He had $5. I looked you up, Victoria said once Maya was distracted with her drink. MIT, Mechanical Engineering PhD, NASA, 8 years designing propulsion systems for the Orion spacecraft. Then you just stopped, vanished from the industry. Darius said nothing. Why, you were on track to become one of the youngest lead engineers in NASA history. Publications in every major journal, patents, and then nothing. Personal reasons. Your wife. Darius's jaw tightened. You had no right to dig into my life. You're right, I didn't. But when someone saves your life using military-grade medical training, you get curious. Your brother was Army, field medic. He taught you. Is there a point to this? Or did you just want to show off your private investigator? Victoria's expression shifted, the polished CEO mask cracking just enough to show something raw underneath. The point is this. Someone tried to kill me last night, cut my brake lines, sabotage, I need help, and I think you're someone who might understand. Call the police. I have, they're investigating. But in the meantime, I have a company to run and enemies I can't see coming. And you have skills I need. I fix cars. You do a lot more than that. MIT PhD doesn't disappear. You see things other people miss. Like you saw my brake lines were cut when the paramedics thought it was just an accident. How do you know that? Because you told me. In the ambulance. You said someone cut the lines 70% through, enough to work for 10 minutes then fail completely. Those weren't the words of someone guessing. Darius rubbed his face. He was tired, so tired. I can't help you, Miss Sterling. I have a daughter, a job, bills. I can't get involved in whatever trouble you're in. What if I paid you, consultant, $2,000 an hour? No. What if I paid off your medical debt, all of it, $140,000, gone? Darius froze. She knew, of course she knew. Her investigator had been thorough. That's what your wife's cancer treatment cost, after insurance, after you sold everything. It's why you left NASA, why you're working as a mechanic instead of designing rockets, because you're still paying it off, 3 years later. Maya looked up from her hot chocolate. Daddy, are you okay? Darius forced a smile. I'm fine, princess. Drink your chocolate. He leaned closer to Victoria, kept his voice low. Don't use my daughter. Don't use my wife. You want help? Fine. Tell me what you really need. Victoria pulled out a folder, slid it across the table. Inside were technical documents, engineering schematics, test data. Sterling Aerospace. We build engines for military aircraft. Our newest design, the SA-7, has failed 4 consecutive tests. We're about to lose a $67 million contract with the Department of Defense. 6 engineers from MIT can't figure out why. Darius looked at the data. His brain, trained by years of thermodynamics and fluid mechanics, and 1,000 problems solved in NASA clean rooms, started working automatically. Harmonic vibration patterns, resonance frequency, metal fatigue in unexpected places. He saw the problem in 30 seconds. Your titanium alloy. It's got impurities, 0.3%. Not enough to show up on standard purity tests, but enough to create harmonic distortion at 12,000 RPM. That's why it's failing. Victoria stared at him. How did you? You looked at this for 30 seconds. I'm good at patterns, always have been, but that doesn't mean I'm getting involved. $67 million contract, 12,000 jobs. My father built this company from nothing. He died 6 months ago. Everyone thinks it was an accident, but I'm starting to think it wasn't. And now someone's trying to kill me. I need help, Darius. Real help. From someone who can actually see what's happening. Why me? You've got money, resources. 1,000 people better qualified. Because you jumped into a river in December to save a stranger, without thinking, without hesitation, and I need someone I can trust, someone who can't be bought. Maya tugged on Darius's sleeve. Daddy, can we help the nice lady? She seems sad. Out of the mouths of babes. Victoria looked at Maya, really looked at her. 7 years old with braids and second-hand clothes and hot chocolate on her upper lip. Your daughter is very perceptive. She gets that from her mother. Tell me about your wife, please. And somehow, sitting in an overpriced coffee shop with a woman he'd met 24 hours ago, Darius found himself talking about Sarah, about her laugh, about how she'd worked as a teacher and believed every child could learn if you just found the right way to teach them, about the cancer that came fast and mean, about watching her fade, about holding Maya while they both cried at the funeral, about the bills that kept coming even after the coffin was in the ground. Victoria listened, didn't interrupt, didn't offer empty platitudes. When he finished, she said simply, "I'm sorry." Yeah, me too. My father died 6 months ago, plane crash. They said it was mechanical failure. Hydraulic lines failed, but he was meticulous about maintenance, obsessive. And 3 weeks before he died, he called me. Said he'd found something at the company, something wrong, financial irregularities. He wanted my help investigating. You think someone killed him? I know someone killed him. I just can't prove it yet. Darius looked at the folder again, at the technical data that his brain had already solved, at the problem that 6 MIT engineers couldn't crack. He thought about bills, about debt, about Maya's future, about the fact that sometimes the right thing and the smart thing weren't the same thing. And sometimes you had to choose between them. 2,000 an hour, he said, plus benefits for Maya, health insurance, dental, and her school. I want her in a better school, somewhere with art programs and computers that work. Done. And I need protection for her. If someone's trying to kill you and I'm helping you, they might come after my family. I'll have bodyguards on her within the hour, former Secret Service, the best there is. Then I'll help, but Miss Sterling, when this is over, when your engine works and your enemies are dealt with, we're done. I go back to my life. You go back to yours. Victoria extended her hand. Deal. Darius shook it. And in that moment, with Maya drinking hot chocolate between them and snow falling outside the window and brake lines being cut somewhere in the night, two lives that should never have intersected became tangled together in ways neither of them could predict. Victoria Sterling didn't know she was falling in love. Darius Washington didn't know he was about to become something more than a mechanic again. And Maya Washington didn't know she was about to get the mother she'd been missing for 3 years. But the universe knew. The universe always knows. It just doesn't tell us until the story is already in motion. Already unstoppable. Already written in the stars and brake lines and hot chocolate stains, and the memory of a man jumping into a frozen river to save a stranger who would change his life forever. The hook was set. The story had begun. And there was no turning back now. 3 days later, on a Monday morning that felt like stepping into a different universe, Darius Washington stood outside Sterling Aerospace Technologies and felt like an imposter. The building was 70 stories of steel and ambition. The kind of place where billion-dollar contracts got signed over coffee that cost more than his hourly wage, where people wore suits that cost what he made in a month. He was wearing his only sport coat, bought at Goodwill 3 years ago for Sarah's funeral. It didn't fit quite right anymore, too tight across the shoulders from 3 years of manual labor. Maya squeezed his hand. "It's really tall, Daddy." "Yeah, Princess, it is." "Are you scared?" "A little bit." "Me too, but we're brave together, right?" Darius looked down at his daughter, 7 years old, wearing her best dress, hair braided perfect, a backpack with books and crayons because Victoria had said to bring her. "Yeah, baby, we're brave together." They walked through the revolving doors into a lobby that looked like it had been designed by someone who thought marble and chrome were personality traits. Security guard at the desk, expensive art on the walls, everything calculated to remind visitors that this was serious money, serious power. Victoria was waiting by the elevators. She looked different than she had at the coffee shop, back in CEO mode, tailored suit, hair up, the armor of authority. But when she saw Maya, her expression softened. "Good morning, Maya. Did you have breakfast?" "Daddy made oatmeal with cinnamon." "That sounds delicious." They rode the elevator to the 52nd floor in silence. The kind of silence that happens when people are about to step into something bigger than small talk can hold. The elevator doors opened onto the executive level. More marble, more chrome, more money than Darius had seen in one place since his last day at NASA. Victoria led them through corridors lined with photos of aircraft and rockets, and all the dreams that money and engineering could build together. Past conference rooms where men in suits were already gathering for morning meetings. Past assistants who looked at Darius with that particular mixture of curiosity and dismissal that came from seeing someone who clearly didn't belong. They reached a door marked Research and Development, authorized personnel only. Victoria swiped her badge. The lock clicked, green light. Inside was a laboratory that made Darius's chest tight, with something between nostalgia and grief. Clean room protocols, climate control, workstations with tools that cost more than cars, and in the center of it all, mounted on a testing rig that probably cost $500,000, was the SA-7 engine. 6 men stood around it, all wearing white coats, all holding tablets and looking at data with the focused intensity of people who'd been staring at the same problem for months without finding an answer. They looked up when Victoria entered. Then they saw Darius. The shift in the room was instant, subtle, but Darius had felt it 1,000 times before. The way educated people looked at someone in cheap clothes and work boots and decided before a single word was spoken that he couldn't possibly have anything useful to contribute. "Gentlemen," Victoria said, "this is Darius Washington. He's consulting on the SA-7 project." The lead engineer, a man in his mid-40s with graying hair and a PhD from Stanford according to the credential wall behind his desk, stepped forward. "Victoria, I wasn't aware we were bringing in outside consultants. Darius has experience with harmonic resonance in aerospace propulsion systems." "From which institution?" The question was polite, barely. "Does it matter?" Darius asked. "Professional credentials matter in this field, Mr. Washington. We're dealing with Department of Defense contracts, security clearances. We can't just bring in anyone off the street." "I'm not off the street." "Then where are you from?" Darius met the man's eyes, saw the challenge there. The territorial instinct of someone who'd spent 20 years building expertise and didn't appreciate having it questioned by someone wearing a sport coat from Goodwill. I've worked in the field, that's all you need to know. One of the younger engineers, maybe 30, fresh PhD from his eager face and expensive watch, spoke up. Victoria, with all due respect, we've been working on this problem for 6 months. We've run every simulation, tested every variable, brought in consultants from Caltech and JPL. If we can't solve it, I'm not sure how someone with no credentials is going to help. Maya tugged on Darius's coat. Daddy, they're being mean. Out of the mouths of babes. Victoria knelt down to Maya's eye level. Sweetheart, would you like to wait in my office? There are books and toys there. My assistant Sarah can stay with you. I want to stay with Daddy. I know, but the adults need to talk about grown-up things, just for a little while. Maya looked at Darius, he nodded. It's okay, princess. I'll come get you in a bit. Victoria's assistant, a kind-looking woman in her 50s, took Maya's hand and led her out. When the door closed, Darius turned back to the engineers. Show me the test data. The lead engineer, whose name tag read Dr. James Patterson, crossed his arms. Mr. Washington, I don't think you understand the complexity of what we're dealing with here. This isn't fixing a carburetor. I understand you failed 4 tests, and you're about to lose a $67 million contract. Show me the data, or I'm leaving. Victoria pulled up the files on the main display. Graphs and numbers and the visual language of failure spelled out in red lines and error codes. Darius studied them for 30 seconds. The room was silent except for the hum of the climate control and the soft clicking of someone's pen. Nervous energy. Your problem isn't the design, Darius said finally. It's the material. Your titanium alloy has impurities, 0.3%. Not enough to show on standard purity tests, but enough to create harmonic distortion at 12,000 RPM. The molecular structure resonates at the wrong frequency. That's why it's failing. Dr. Patterson blinked. That's impossible. We test for purity to 0.01%. You test for common impurities, but if your supplier is using recycled titanium from Chinese sources, you're getting trace amounts of rare earth elements. Yttrium, scandium. They don't show up on standard tests, but they change the harmonic properties enough to matter. The young engineer pulled up the supplier data. Our titanium comes from Hextech Industries. They source globally, including China. There's your problem. Switch to domestic titanium, or add a dampening system at turbine blades 7 and 11. Those are your resonance points. The room went very quiet. Dr. Patterson walked over to a computer, started running calculations. His fingers moved fast across the keyboard, pulling up models, testing Darius's theory against 6 months of accumulated data. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Finally, Patterson looked up. He's right. Jesus Christ, he's right. The impurities create a resonance cascade that our models didn't account for because we assumed purity standards that weren't actually being met. The other engineers crowded around the screen. Confirmation spreading like wildfire through data they'd been staring at for half a year without seeing what Darius had seen in 30 seconds. How did you know, Patterson asked, about the Chinese titanium, about the specific impurities? I've seen it before, different application, same problem. Where NASA, Lockheed? Darius didn't answer. Victoria stepped in. Dr. Patterson, I'd like Darius to work with your team on implementing the fix. Can you prepare a revised testing schedule? Of course, Mr. Washington, I apologize for my skepticism. That was impressive work. Darius nodded, accepted the apology without making it easy. The young engineer who'd questioned his credentials approached hesitantly. Sir, where did you study? I've never seen anyone diagnose a harmonic resonance problem that fast. Does it matter now? I'd just like to know, for my own education. Darius looked at Victoria. She gave a small nod, permission. MIT, Mechanical Engineering, specialized in aerospace propulsion. Graduate Program. PhD. The young engineer's face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Surprise, embarrassment, curiosity. Then, why are you working as a consultant instead of? He trailed off, realizing the question was rude. Instead of working somewhere like this, Darius finished. Because life happens, and sometimes the things that matter most aren't the things that look impressive on paper. He excused himself and went to find Maya. Victoria's office was everything the laboratory wasn't. Soft, warm, personal, photos of her father on the walls, books on shelves, a window overlooking Manhattan that probably added $1 million to the real estate value. Maya sat at a small table coloring. Sarah, the assistant, sat nearby with a genuine smile. Daddy, look what I drew. It was a picture of 3 stick figures, one tall with dark skin, one medium with yellow hair, one small with a big smile. That's you and me and Miss Victoria, Maya explained. We're a team. Darius felt something crack in his chest, the way it always did when Maya said something innocent and profound and impossibly hopeful. That's beautiful, princess. Victoria appeared in the doorway. Maya, that's a wonderful drawing. May I keep it? Maya beamed. Really? Really? I'll put it right here on my desk so I can see it every day. She took the drawing and placed it in a silver frame, displaying a photo of some award ceremony. The gesture was small, but it meant something. Maya noticed too. Miss Victoria, do you have kids? No, sweetheart. How come? Maya, Darius warned gently. But Victoria knelt down to Maya's level. I've been very busy with work, and I never found the right person to have a family with, but maybe someday. You should have kids. You're really nice and pretty, and you smell good. Victoria laughed, a real laugh, not the polished CEO version. Thank you, Maya, that's very sweet. You know what? My daddy doesn't have a wife anymore. Mommy died. Maybe you could be friends. Then you wouldn't be lonely and Daddy wouldn't be lonely and I could have someone to talk about girl things with because Grandma Gloria is old and doesn't understand about Taylor Swift. The silence that followed was deafening. Darius wanted the floor to open up and swallow him whole. Maya, we talked about this. You can't just... It's okay, Victoria said. Her voice was soft. Maya, I would be honored to be friends with your daddy and with you, and you can talk to me about Taylor Swift anytime you want. Do you know the words to Shake It Off? Every single one. Maya's face lit up like Christmas morning. And Darius Washington, PhD from MIT, former NASA engineer, single father working 60-hour weeks to pay off medical debt, felt something he hadn't felt in 3 years. Hoping. Maybe. Just maybe. Minute 22 to 35, building trust. Over the following 2 weeks, Darius's life transformed in ways he couldn't have imagined. The SA-7 engine was redesigned with domestic titanium, new dampening systems installed at precisely the points Darius had identified. test schedules revised. He found himself spending 12-hour days at Sterling Aerospace. The engineers who doubted him now asked his opinion on everything. Dr. Patterson wanted him to co-author a paper on harmonic resonance detection. The young PhD asked if he'd consider mentoring. It felt like coming home to a place he'd forgotten existed. But it also felt dangerous, because the more time he spent in this world of clean rooms and advanced degrees and problems that could be solved with math and engineering, the more he remembered what he'd given up. And why he'd given it up. Victoria had arranged for Maya to attend a private school in Manhattan. Full scholarship, art programs, music, computers that actually worked, a bodyguard disguised as a driver who picked her up every morning and brought her to Sterling Aerospace every afternoon. The bodyguard's name was James, former Secret Service, quiet, competent, the kind of man who could disappear into a crowd but would step in front of a bullet without hesitation. Maya loved her new school. She'd made friends, learned piano, started reading 2 grade levels above her age. And she'd latched onto Victoria like a barnacle to a ship. Every afternoon, Maya would burst into Victoria's office with stories about her day. Victoria, who supposedly had a company to run and enemies to identify and a murdered father to avenge, would stop whatever she was doing and listen. Really listen. The way Sarah used to. Darius watched it happen and felt his carefully constructed walls beginning to crack. He was falling for her. Not the CEO version, but the woman who sang Taylor Swift with his daughter, who asked about his mother's arthritis, who brought him coffee at 2 in the morning when they were reviewing test data and made it exactly how he liked it without being told, who looked at him sometimes like he was something more than a consultant or a mechanic or a project to be managed. Like he was a man. And she was a woman. And maybe, just maybe, there was something there. One night, working late in the laboratory after everyone else had gone home, Victoria found him staring at the engine with an expression she couldn't quite read. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "That I spent 8 years at NASA designing systems for spacecraft, and then I spent 3 years fixing Honda Civics, and now I'm here. Back in the world I thought I'd lost forever, and I don't know if I belong anymore." You belong. You solved a problem in 30 seconds that stumped 6 brilliant engineers for 6 months. You belong. Belonging isn't about solving problems. It's about fitting. And I don't fit here. Not really. I'm a guy from Detroit in a Goodwill sport coat working with people who buy $1,000 suits without thinking about it. Victoria sat beside him, close enough that he could smell her perfume. Something subtle, expensive, the kind of thing you didn't buy at a drugstore. "You know what I see when I look at you. A charity case. A man who gave up everything for his family, who could have stayed at NASA and paid off his debts and lived comfortably, but chose to be there for his daughter instead, who jumps into freezing rivers to save strangers, who fights for what's right even when it costs him. That's not a charity case, Darius. That's character, and character is worth more than any credential. Character doesn't pay medical bills. No, but it's what I've been missing. My whole life. Everyone in my world cares about money and power and what you can do for them. You're the first person I've met in years who does the right thing just because it's right, not for what you can get out of it. I'm getting $2,000 an hour out of it. You tried to say no to that. I had to bribe you with your daughter's future." Darius smiled despite himself. "You're persistent." "I learned from my father. When you know something's worth fighting for, you don't give up." They sat in silence, comfortable. The kind that happens when two people don't need to fill every moment with words. Maya asked me today if I was going to be her new mom, Victoria said quietly. Darius's heart stopped. I'm sorry, she shouldn't have. I didn't mind, it was sweet, and it made me realize something. What? That I want to be, not right now, not tomorrow, but someday. I want to be part of your family. I want Maya to have a mother again, and I want you to have. She trailed off, uncertain for the first time since he'd known her. A partner, Darius finished. Yeah, the partner. He should have said something about taking it slow, about how they barely knew each other, about the complications of her being his boss and him being damaged goods with a mountain of debt. Instead he said, I'd like that. Victoria's smile could have powered the building. Yeah. Yeah. They didn't kiss. Not yet, but the possibility hung in the air between them like a promise waiting to be kept. Minute 35 to 45, the evidence. The private investigator Victoria had hired delivered his report on a Wednesday afternoon, 2 weeks and 3 days after Darius had started working at Sterling Aerospace. They met in her office after hours. Maya was with the bodyguard getting ice cream. The building was quiet except for the cleaning crew and a few workaholics burning midnight oil. Victoria opened the folder with hands that shook slightly. Inside were photos, documents, audio files, the accumulated evidence of murder dressed up as accident. Richard Sterling's Cessna, the investigator's report began, crashed due to hydraulic failure, but the hydraulic lines didn't fail naturally. Photos showed the wreckage, twisted metal, burned components, and there, highlighted in red, the hydraulic lines. Cut. Not worn, not corroded, cut with precision, 70% through, just like Victoria's brake lines. Someone did this, Victoria whispered. Someone killed my father. Darius studied the photos with the trained eye of an engineer. The cuts are identical to what I saw on your car. Same angle, same depth, same technique. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. There's more. Victoria pulled out an audio file, placed her phone on the desk, hit play. Richard Sterling's voice filled the office, strong, confident, the voice of a man who'd built empires and didn't scare easily. Ed, I know what you've been doing. $87 million, fake contracts, shell companies. I've hired forensic accountants. By Monday, I'm calling the FBI. We're done. A pause, then Edward Chambers' voice, calm, cold, the voice of a man who'd already made his decision. Richard, you're making the last mistake of your life. Are you threatening me? I'm telling you how this ends. You call the FBI, you destroy both of us, everything we've built, 20 years of friendship. 20 years of me trusting you while you stole from my company. Our company, I built this with you. I deserve compensation. You deserve prison. Then we both lose. The recording ended. Victoria's face was white. 3 days after that call, his plane went down, and Chambers was in Manhattan the whole time. Perfect alibi, but someone cut those lines, someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Darius rewound the audio, listened again. His MIT training had included signal processing, audio analysis. He pulled out his phone, ran the file through a frequency analyzer. There's a background sound. During your father's call, hear it. He isolated the frequency and amplified it. A beep, soft but distinct, rhythmic. That's a remote detonation signal. Someone triggered an explosive while your father was in the air. Small charge, just enough to rupture the hydraulic lines completely, masked by the engine noise. "You're saying Chambers had my father's plane rigged with explosives?" "I'm saying someone did, and Chambers is the only person with motive, means, and opportunity." Victoria stood, paced to the window. New York spread out below her like a kingdom she'd inherited but never wanted. "We need more than audio files and cut hydraulic lines. We need proof, documentation, something that connects Chambers to the murder and the attempt on my life." "How do we get that?" "We break into his office, tonight." Darius thought about his daughter, about the life he was building, about all the reasons this was a terrible idea. Then he thought about Richard Sterling, about Victoria almost drowning in a river, about evil winning because good people were too scared to act. "Okay," he said, "but we do this smart. We plan every detail. My brother Marcus taught me something when we were kids. He's former Special Forces now, runs a security company. He always said, if you're going to break the rules, break them so perfectly nobody can prove it." It was the first time Darius had mentioned his brother's name, a small seed planted for later. Victoria nodded. "Then let's be perfect." Minute 45 to 50, into the dark. They spent 2 hours planning. Victoria had master access to the building. She knew the security rotations, the camera positions, the blind spots. Darius had his phone with the acoustic analysis app, the same technology he'd used at NASA to detect structural flaws in rocket components by sound. It would work on a safe too. The plan was simple. Wait until 1 a.m. when the new security guard came on shift. He'd spend 20 minutes doing his rounds. That was their window. Get in, get to Chambers' office, open the safe, photograph everything, get out. No violence, no confrontation, just evidence. They drove to the building in silence. The city at night was a different animal, darker, more honest about what it was. Money and power and people willing to do anything to get more of both. The lobby was empty. The night guard was somewhere on the upper floors. They took the elevator to 51. The executive level at night was all shadows and silence, the ghosts of deals made and broken haunting the corridors. Chambers' office was at the end of the hall, corner office, views of the city, the physical manifestation of 20 years of climbing and stealing and killing. Victoria swiped her card, green light, they slipped inside. The office was exactly what Darius expected. Expensive furniture, diplomas on the wall, photos with presidents and generals and titans of industry, all the proof that Edward Chambers was important, successful, above suspicion. "Where would he keep it?" Victoria whispered. "Safe behind that painting." He pointed to a massive oil painting of a yacht, expensive, tasteless, the kind of art people bought to show they could afford art. They moved the painting. Behind it, a wall safe, digital lock, 10-digit code. "Can you open it?" Victoria asked. Darius pulled out his phone, opened the acoustic analysis app. "In theory, if I can hear the tumblers moving. Each number creates a slightly different frequency when the internal mechanism shifts position." He placed the phone against the safe, started entering random numbers, listening. The app translated sound into waveforms. Each number had a signature, a pattern. 5 minutes. 10. Victoria kept watch at the door. Her phone showed the security guard's position, still on the lower floors. 15 minutes. Then, click. The safe opened. Inside was everything they needed, and more than they wanted to know. File folders, bank statements, Contracts showing $87 million transferred through a maze of shell companies: Prometheus Holdings, Titan Investments, Phoenix Enterprises, all registered in Delaware, all controlled by Chambers. But that wasn't the worst. Victoria pulled out a blueprint, Richard Sterling's Cessna, marked up in red ink, showing exactly where to place the explosive charge, where to cut the hydraulic lines, how to make it look like mechanical failure. "Oh God," she breathed. He planned it, every detail. Emails too, printed, filed. Chambers was old school in the worst way. From E. Chambers to V. Markovic. Subject: the Sterling problem. Richard: suspects. We need to accelerate timeline. Can you handle the plane work? Same method as the practice run last year. Reply: yes, but it will cost extra, 50,000 plus expenses. Chambers: done, make it clean. The date stamp was 3 days before Richard Sterling died. Darius photographed everything, page after page, his phone's camera clicking softly in the dark. Victoria found a USB drive labeled insurance. She pocketed it. A ledger showing payments to Victor Markovic, 50,000 3 days before Richard died, another 50,000 the week after, completion bonus. "We have him," Victoria said. "This is enough for the FBI." "Not yet, we need." The office lights blazed on. Edward Chambers stood in the doorway, and he wasn't alone. 2 men flanked him, big, professional, the kind of men who solved problems with violence and slept fine afterward. "Victoria, Mr. Washington, I'm disappointed. Breaking and entering, theft. I expected better." Darius stepped in front of Victoria. Instinct, protect. "We know what you did," Victoria said. "My father, the plane, all of it." Chambers walked to his desk, sat down, casual, like conducting a normal business meeting. "You know nothing, you have suspicions. Evidence obtained illegally, inadmissible in court. You've learned nothing from your father, too honest for his own good. It got him killed. You murdered him." "I solved a problem. Richard was going to destroy everything we built. I saved Sterling Aerospace." "You saved yourself." "Same thing, I am this company. Richard was just the face, I did the work." He nodded to the 2 men. "Victor, Dmitri, please escort our guests to the parking garage. We'll continue this conversation somewhere more private." Victor moved forward. Darius had maybe 3 seconds to decide. His brother Marcus's training kicked in. When outnumbered, you don't wait, you strike first. His elbow caught Victor in the throat. Precise. The kind of strike designed to crush windpipes and end fights before they started. Victor stumbled back, choking. Dmitri swung. Darius ducked and drove his fist into the man's solar plexus. "Run," he shouted at Victoria. They ran. Behind them, Chambers screaming orders. The 2 men recovering. Trained fighters didn't stay down long. They hit the stairwell at full sprint, 51 floors, going down. Footsteps above them, heavy, fast, professional. Victoria was faster. She pulled ahead. They burst into the maintenance level at 40. Industrial. Pipes and HVAC and all the guts of a building hidden from view. Darius pulled Victoria behind a massive air handler. They pressed against cold metal and tried to breathe quietly. Victor's voice in the stairwell. "Split up." A door opened. Victor stepped out, gun drawn. Darius picked up a pipe wrench. Not a gun, but better than nothing. He nodded to Victoria, pointed to the emergency exit. "On 3. 1, 2, 3." They ran. Victor turned, raised his gun. Darius threw the wrench. It hit Victor's face. Bone crunched. The gun went off. The bullet sparked off a pipe near Victoria's head. They crashed through the emergency exit. Fire escape. Manhattan spreading out below. Down they went, 40 floors, 30, 20. Police sirens in the distance. Someone had heard the gunshot. They hit street level and kept running, through alleys, into the maze of Manhattan at night. 3 blocks away, Victoria stopped, gasped for air. Did it send the email? She checked her phone. Before leaving the office, she'd uploaded everything to the cloud, emailed copies to herself, to her lawyer, to the FBI. Yes, all of it, even if he gets the phone, even if he destroys the files, it's out there. Then we have him. We have evidence, but Chambers has resources, money, lawyers. He'll try to kill us anyway. Darius pulled out his phone, called the bodyguard. Maya. Safe, sir, still at your mother's house in Detroit. I drove her there after school like you asked. We're watching a movie. Relief flooded through him. He'd had a feeling, a bad one, so he'd told James to take Maya to Detroit, out of the city, away from Chambers' reach. Good, don't leave her side. Never, sir. He looked at Victoria. Maya's safe. Now we need to get somewhere Chambers can't find us, regroup, figure out our next move. I have an apartment, safe house, Brooklyn, under a different name. I bought it after my father died. Smart. Paranoid. Same thing right now. They walked through Manhattan. 2 people who just stolen evidence of murder and fought their way out of a building and uploaded files that would destroy a billionaire. Victoria's hand found his. Thank you. For what? For fighting, for protecting me, for all of it. We're not done yet. I know, but Darius, whatever happens next, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you jumped in that river. I'm glad Maya drew that picture of us as a family. Me too. They reached the safe apartment as dawn broke over Brooklyn. Inside was simple, functional, a place to hide and plan and survive. Victoria collapsed on the couch, exhaustion and fear finally catching up. Darius sat beside her. We take this to the FBI in the morning, all of it. Let them handle it. And in the meantime, we rest, we stay alive, and we trust that the truth is stronger than Chambers' money. Victoria leaned against him, let herself be held, let herself be scared because she didn't have to be strong every second when someone else was willing to carry half the weight. I'm falling in love with you, she whispered. The words hung in the air. Honest, terrifying, impossible to take back. Darius should have said something careful, something about maintaining boundaries, about how this was complicated. Instead, he kissed her. Soft, gentle, the kiss of a man who'd forgotten what it felt like to want something for himself. When they pulled apart, Victoria was crying. I can't lose you, not after just finding you. You won't, I promise. Outside, somewhere in the city, Edward Chambers was making calls, planning his next move, trying to contain the damage. But the files were uploaded. The evidence was out there. And sometimes, just sometimes, the truth was enough. Hulk minute 50. Darius's phone buzzed. A text message, unknown number. We have your daughter. If you want to see her alive again, bring all evidence to Warehouse 47, Red Hook, Brooklyn. 1 hour. Come alone or she dies. His blood turned to ice. No. Victoria looked at the phone, saw the message. Her face went white. How? You said she was in Detroit. Darius was already calling James, the bodyguard. Straight to voicemail. He called his mother. Darius, what's wrong? Where's Maya? Is she there? No, baby. James said you called him, said to bring her back to Manhattan, some emergency at Sterling Aerospace. They left an hour ago. I didn't call him. Silence on the line, then his mother's voice, small and scared. Darius, what's happening? They have her, Mama. They have Maya. He hung up, looked at Victoria. Chambers got to James, somehow, faked my voice or paid him off or threatened him, and now they have my daughter. Victoria's hand covered her mouth. Oh God, what do we do? Darius was already dialing another number, one he hadn't called in 5 years. His brother answered on the first ring. Darius, that you, little brother? Marcus, I need help. The text message burned itself into Darius's retinas. We have your daughter. Warehouse 47, Red Hook, Brooklyn. 1 hour. Come alone or she dies. His hands shook so badly, he almost dropped the phone. Maya. His daughter. His reason for breathing. In the hands of men who killed for money. Victoria grabbed his arm. We call the police, FBI right now. No. Darius, we can't go in there alone. They'll kill you. They'll kill both of us. They have my daughter. And if you die trying to save her, she'll be an orphan. The logic was sound, perfect, exactly what a rational person would say. But Darius wasn't feeling rational. He was feeling the way he'd felt 3 years ago watching Sarah waste away in a hospital bed, while doctors said there was nothing more they could do. The helpless rage of wanting to fix something and not being able to. He'd failed Sarah. He would not fail Maya. I'm going, he said, voice flat, final. Then I'm going with you. No, you stay here, safe. If this goes wrong, someone needs to make sure the evidence gets to the FBI. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. I just told you I'm falling in love with you. You think I'm going to let you walk into a death trap alone? I think you're going to do what's smart, what keeps the most people alive. Smart? Darius, Maya drew a picture of the 3 of us as a family. She's ours, not just yours, ours, and we don't abandon family. The word hit him like a physical blow. Family. Okay, he said quietly. We go together, but we call someone, not the police. Someone who can help without sirens and protocols. He was already dialing, the number he just called minutes before. Darius Washington answered immediately. Darius, talk to me. Kidnapped daughter, warehouse in Red Hook, armed men, 1 hour. Marcus didn't waste time on questions. You calling me instead of cops means this is off books. Yeah. The people who have your girl, they professional. They've killed before, multiple times. Then we go hard, fast, no mercy. I can be there in 30 minutes with a team, 3 guys I trust, all spec ops, former Rangers SEALs. We do this quiet, get Maya out. You walk in like they said, we're already inside, already have her, clean extraction. It was a good plan. Dependent on Marcus being better than professional killers who'd had time to prepare. But it was the best option they had. Do it, Darius said. Warehouse 47, Red Hook. I'll text coordinates when we're in position. 1 hour, don't be late. Marcus hung up. Victoria looked at Darius with something between admiration and terror. Your brother runs a private security company. Yeah, best in the business. If anyone can get Meyer out, it's Marcus. And if he can't? Darius didn't answer that. Instead, he started preparing. From Victoria's safe apartment, he pulled together what they'd need. Phone fully charged, recording app ready. USB drive with copies of all evidence, hidden in Victoria's shoe. Another copy uploaded to 3 different cloud services under fake accounts. Email scheduled to send to the FBI and New York Times in 2 hours if Darius didn't manually cancel it. Dead man switch. If they died, Chambers went down anyway. Victoria changed clothes, jeans, boots, dark jacket, practical, ready. She caught Darius looking at her. What? I'm glad you're here, even though this is insane, even though we might die. I'm glad I'm not doing this alone. You're never doing anything alone again. That's what family means. They drove to Red Hook in silence. Brooklyn at night was all shadows and industrial wasteland. Warehouses, shipping containers, places where bad things happened and nobody asked questions. Warehouse 47 sat at the end of a dead-end street. 2 men outside, big, professional. Darius's phone buzzed. Marcus in position, 2 guards outside, 4 inside plus the girl tied to a chair unharmed. We can take them clean, say the word. Darius typed back, wait, let me go in first, record everything. I want Chambers on camera confessing. Then you move. Marcus, risky. Darius, they want the evidence. They'll talk first, then you breach. Marcus, your funeral will be ready. Victoria read over his shoulder. You're using yourself as bait. I'm making sure we get everything we need to put Chambers away forever, not just rescue Maya. End this, completely. She kissed him quick, fierce. For luck. I don't believe in luck. Then for love. That he believed in. Minute 55 to 65, the trap. They approached the warehouse. The 2 guards watched them come. You Washington. Yeah. You bring the evidence. Darius held up a USB drive, not the real one, a decoy. Let me see my daughter first. Inside. The door opened. The warehouse was nightmare fuel. Open space, concrete floor, overhead lights buzzing, and in the center under the harshest light Maya. Tied to a chair. Tape over her mouth. Eyes wide with terror. But alive. Unharmed. Darius's heart unclenched just enough to beat again. Maya. He started toward her. A hand stopped him. Edward Chambers stepped from the shadows, suit perfect despite the hour, hair styled, as if attending a board meeting instead of a kidnapping. Mr. Washington, so glad you could join us, and Victoria, how unexpected. Where I go, she goes, Darius said. Romantic, stupid. You're both going to die here tonight, you understand that. By kidnapping a 7-year-old girl. By eliminating threats, all very legal if you have the right lawyers, which I do. Victor and Dmitri emerged from the shadows. Victor's face was swollen from where Darius had hit him. He looked eager for payback. 4 armed men total, plus Chambers. Somewhere in the rafters, Marcus and his team were watching. Darius activated the recording app on his phone. Subtle, placed it in his jacket pocket with the microphone exposed. But he did something else too. He opened Facebook, went live, pointed the camera at Chambers. 50 people watching immediately, then 100, then 500. Live broadcast. You killed Richard Sterling, Darius said. Loud, clear, for the recording and the live stream. I solved a problem. Richard was going to destroy everything I'd built. The FBI investigation would have ended Sterling Aerospace. I saved the company. You saved yourself. Same thing, I am Sterling Aerospace. 20 years of my expertise. Richard was just the face. I did the real work. You had his plane rigged with explosives. Chambers smiled, cold, proud. Victor has many talents: demolitions, mechanical sabotage, making problems disappear. And Victoria's car, her brake lines. A warning, but she was too stupid to take it like her father. Stubborn, principled, it got him killed. Victoria stepped forward. My father built something good, and you destroyed it for money. I enhanced it, made it profitable. Your father was soft, I cared about results. 1,000 viewers now, 2,000. The comments were exploding, people recording the stream, sharing it. You cared about yourself, Victoria said. Of course, that's how you survive. You take what you've earned, and you eliminate anyone who gets in your way. He nodded to Victor. Kill them, make it look like a murder-suicide. The girl too, no witnesses. Victor raised his gun. 5,000 viewers. 10,000. Going viral in real time. This was it. The moment. Darius looked at the rafters, gave the smallest nod. The lights went out. Gunfire erupted in the darkness, not from Victor, from above. Marcus and his team. Suppressed weapons, precise shots, professional. Bodies hit the floor. Screaming, shouting, chaos. Darius ran toward Maya in the darkness, found the chair by feel, cut her bonds with his pocket knife, ripped the tape from her mouth. Daddy. I've got you, princess, I've got you. The lights came back on. 4 bodies on the ground, Victor, Dmitri, the 2 outside guards not dead but not moving. Marcus and 3 men in tactical gear, repelled from the rafters. Professional, silent, ghosts. Marcus trained his weapon on Chambers. Don't move. Darius held Maya. She was crying, shaking, but alive. Victoria ran to them, wrapped her arms around both. It's over, Darius said. You're safe. But it wasn't over. Darius stood, handed Maya to Victoria. He walked to Chambers, pulled out his phone, showed him the screen. Facebook Live. 50,000 viewers. Every word Chambers had said, every confession, broadcast live. Chambers' face went white. You were streaming. Every word. 50,000 people heard you confess to murder, to attempted murder, to kidnapping. It's saved, backed up, shared. There's no making this go away. You're done. The sound of sirens. Police, FBI. Somebody in those 50,000 viewers had called them. Marcus looked at Darius. We need to go, before questions get asked about contractors operating on U.S. soil. Go, and Marcus, thank you for everything. She's my niece, you're my brother, that's what family does. Marcus and his team disappeared. The police burst in. FBI right behind them. 20 agents, guns drawn. Darius raised his hands. Darius Washington, this is my daughter Maya. That man is Edward Chambers. You'll want to arrest him for the murder of Richard Sterling. It's all on video. 50,000 witnesses and counting. The lead FBI agent, a woman in her 40s with hard eyes, looked from Darius to Chambers to the unconscious guards. "Someone want to tell me what happened?" "I can show you," Darius said. He pulled up the live stream. 75,000 viewers now. The video had been shared across every platform. The agent watched. Her expression never changed, but her hand moved to her handcuffs. When it finished, she walked to Chambers. "Edward Chambers, you're under arrest for the murder of Richard Sterling, attempted murder of Victoria Sterling, kidnapping, conspiracy. You have the right to remain silent." She cuffed him. Chambers tried one last manipulation. "This is a setup. That video is edited, deep fake." The agent smiled, not friendly. "Mr. Chambers, that was a live stream watched by 75,000 people in real time, including 3 FBI agents and the director of the New York field office. We've been building a case against you based on evidence Ms. Sterling provided. This just made our job easier." They led him away. As he passed Darius, Chambers spat venom. "You're nobody, a failed engineer, a mechanic. You'll always be nothing." Darius looked at him. "I'm a father. I'm a man who keeps his promises. And I'm someone who just took down a murderer on live television. You're right, I'm nobody, but nobody was enough to beat you." Minute 65 to 75, the proposal. Outside, the media had arrived. News vans, cameras, reporters. The FBI tried to create a perimeter, but the age of social media meant everyone knew the story. Chambers' confession had gone viral, millions of views, trending worldwide. Justice delivered live. Victoria found Darius in the crowd, Maya held between them. A reporter spotted them. Shouted questions. Others followed. Suddenly, they were surrounded by cameras and microphones and lights. Victoria spoke first. "My name is Victoria Sterling. 6 months ago, my father was murdered by Edward Chambers. Tonight, with Darius Washington's help, we brought my father's killer to justice. Darius is a hero. He saved my life. He saved his daughter. And he proved you don't need money or power to fight for what's right. You just need courage." She stepped back. A reporter shouted at Darius. "Mr. Washington, you're trending worldwide. How do you respond?" Darius looked at the camera, at the millions watching. Thought about all the men over 50 who'd worked hard their whole lives and wondered if anyone saw them, if it mattered. "I'm not special. I'm not a hero. I'm a father who loves his daughter, a man who was given a second chance. 6 months ago, I was barely surviving, working a job that didn't use my skills, paying debts I'd never escape, thinking I'd lost everything. Then a woman crashed her car into a river and I jumped in, not because I'm brave, but because someone needed help. That's all being a man is, showing up, doing what's right, even when it's hard. Every person watching this, you matter. Your work matters. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." The crowd erupted in applause. The video clip would play 100 million times. But Darius wasn't thinking about going viral. He was thinking about Maya's hand in his, and Victoria's eyes on his face, and the fact that somehow he'd found a family again. The FBI finished taking statements. By dawn, it was over. Chambers would spend his life in prison. The evidence was overwhelming. Sterling Aerospace was safe. Richard Sterling's legacy preserved. They stood outside the warehouse as the sun rose over Brooklyn. Exhausted, traumatized, alive. Maya had fallen asleep in Darius's arms, the adrenaline crash hitting her hard. Victoria touched his face. "Can I tell you something?" "Anything." When I thought we might die in there, all I could think was that I'd wasted so much time, being scared, being careful, not saying what I felt, and I don't want to waste any more time. She took his hand, knelt down in front of him, right there on the street, in front of the warehouse, with police tape and news crews and the whole messy aftermath of justice around them. Darius Washington, I'm not asking you to marry me. Not yet, we need time, real dates, normal life, but I'm asking if you'll let me love you, if you'll let me be part of your family, if you and Maya will be my family too. Because I'm done being alone. I'm done pretending I don't need people. I need you, both of you, and I think maybe you need me too. Darius looked down at her. This brilliant, beautiful woman kneeling in the street, asking to be part of his life. Maya stirred in his arms, opened her eyes, saw Victoria kneeling. Daddy, is Miss Victoria asking to be our family? Yeah, princess, I think she is. Then say yes right now. Darius laughed, the first real laugh he'd had in hours. Yeah, Victoria, yes, let's be a family, let's try this, whatever this is. Victoria stood, kissed him. And Maya cheered. The news cameras caught it all. The proposal. The kiss. The little girl celebrating. It would become the second most viral clip of the night. Right after the confession. Good news to balance the bad. Hope to balance the darkness. Love winning. The way it should. Minute 75 to 88, 6 months later. The scene dissolves. Time passes in montage. Darius at Sterling Aerospace, not as a consultant, as chief engineer, white coat, his own team, designing the next generation of propulsion systems. Victoria in board meetings, strong, confident, the CEO her father knew she could be. Maya at her new school, thriving, happy, piano recitals and soccer games and all the normal childhood things she'd been denied. The three of them together, dinners, museums, Central Park on Sundays, building a life. Slowly, carefully, real. And then, 6 months after the warehouse, a garden in upstate New York. The Sterling family estate. Flowers, old trees, 50 people gathered. A wedding. Small, intimate, the people who mattered. Gloria Washington, 72, crying happy tears. Marcus and his wife. Dr. Patterson and the engineering team. Maya's teacher. The bodyguard James, who'd been cleared of any involvement and had proven his loyalty when it counted. Maya was the flower girl, white dress, perfect braids, taking her job seriously. Victoria wore white, simple, elegant, beautiful. Darius wore a new suit, tailored, fitting his shoulders. He looked like what he was, a man who'd worked hard and lost everything and found something better. They stood under an arch of flowers. The minister talked about love and commitment and journey. But Darius was looking at Victoria, at the woman who'd crashed into his life and changed everything, who'd chosen him when she could have chosen anyone. And at Maya, standing beside them, beaming, the daughter who'd lost a mother and was gaining another. When it came time for vows, Darius spoke from his heart. Victoria, 6 months ago I was surviving, getting through each day. You changed that, you saw me. Not what I used to be, not what I'd lost, but who I was. And you decided I was worth loving. I promised to see you the same way, to be your partner in everything. You saved me. Let me spend my life returning the favor. Victoria's vows were simpler. I love you, I love Maya. I choose you both every day, that's all. Sometimes the most profound truths were the shortest. They exchanged rings, gold bands, simple, real. The minister pronounced them married. They kissed while 50 people cheered, and Maya jumped up and down. At the reception, there were toasts. Marcus talked about watching his little brother find happiness. Dr. Patterson talked about how Darius revolutionized their engineering. Maya's toast was mostly about cake and having a mom again. It was perfect. Not because everything went according to plan, but because it was theirs. Real, imperfect, full of love. As the sun set, Darius and Victoria stood looking out at their future. Maya ran up, dressed dirty from playing, hair falling out of its braids. "Mommy, Daddy, can we do sparklers now?" "Mommy." "Not Miss Victoria." "Mommy." Victoria's eyes filled with tears of joy. "Yeah, baby, we can." They lit sparklers as darkness fell, creating temporary stars. Maya wrote her name in fire and light. And Darius thought about how life was like that, temporary, fragile, but beautiful because of it. You couldn't hold onto anything forever, but you could love it while it lasted. The reception wound down. People left with hugs and congratulations. The night grew quiet. Darius and Victoria stood alone in the garden. "I have something to tell you," Victoria said. "Yeah." She took his hand, placed it on her stomach. "I went to the doctor yesterday for a checkup, and she found something." Darius's heart stopped. "Found what?" Victoria smiled, the biggest smile he'd ever seen. "We're pregnant." The world tilted. "Seriously?" "Seriously, about 8 weeks. I wanted to be sure before I said anything, but yes, we're having a baby." Darius pulled her into his arms. Held her. This brilliant woman who'd given him everything. "Maya's going to lose her mind," he said. "I know, should we tell her now?" "Absolutely." They found Maya inside, tired but wired, running on cake and happiness. "Maya, come here, baby. We have something to tell you." She ran over, suspicious, excited. "What?" "You're going to be a big sister," Victoria said. Maya's face went through 6 emotions in 3 seconds. Confusion, realization, pure joy. A real baby, in Mommy's tummy. A real baby. Maya screamed, the happy kind. Then she got very serious. "Can we name her Sarah, after my first mommy?" Darius and Victoria looked at each other. Both crying now. "Yeah," Darius said, voice thick. "If it's a girl, we'll name her Sarah." Maya hugged them both. And the circle was complete. Loss and love and life continuing. The way it should. Minute 88 to 90, the message. The image fades. Soft piano music. Text appears on screen. Edward Chambers, life in prison without parole. Sterling Aerospace, record profits. SA-7 engine success. 15,000 employees. Darius Washington, chief engineer, published researcher, patent holder. Victoria Washington, CEO, Forbes' most powerful women. Maya Washington, 4th grade, piano, soccer, happy. Baby Sarah Washington, born healthy, loved. The screen goes black. Darius's voice over the darkness. "People ask me what I learned from all this, from losing everything and finding it again, from watching someone I love die and learning to love again, and I tell them this. Life isn't about the big moments, the dramatic saves, the viral videos. It's about showing up every day, doing the work, loving the people in front of you, being the kind of man who jumps into rivers because someone needs help, not for recognition, but because it's right, and trusting that doing right things matters. 6 months ago, I was a mechanic barely surviving. Today, I'm an engineer, a husband, a father of two, not because I'm special, but because I showed up. I did the work, I loved hard, and I didn't give up. That's all any of us can do: show up, love hard, don't give up. The rest takes care of itself. 3 beats of silence. Then a final image. The family. Darius, Victoria, Maya, baby Sarah. Standing together. Whole. Healed. Growing. White text appears. For everyone who's ever felt invisible. You matter. Your work matters. Your love matters. Don't give up. The music swells. Piano and strings. Hopeful. Lasting. The end. The story is over. But the message remains. About the mechanic who became an engineer. About the CEO who learned to love. About the little girl who got a family. About justice served and good rewarded. About second chances. About not giving up. About love being enough. Even when the world says it's not. Even when you're tired and wondering if anything matters. It matters. You matter. And sometimes, when you least expect it, the universe reminds you. With a woman in a river. A daughter who draws pictures. A villain brought low. And a family built from ashes. That's the story. That's always the story. Love wins. If you let it.